I always say I'm a true corporate athlete. A true corporate athlete versus a kind of subject matter expert.
So often I think when people envision their career path, there's the big bucket functions, right? There's marketing, there's operations, there's finance, there can be accounting, there can be HR, sales. Investor relations isn't typically considered one of those big bucket functions.
No.
It's a critical function, but not one of those big bucket functions. So what makes a really good investor relations executive? What are the kind of the things that you think, as you've kind of not only navigated your career, but seen other people who are really good at it? What are those either background pieces or secret tools or gifts they have?
Yeah, so I think it's definitely a kind of melting pot of a number of different skill sets and abilities. So one, it's finance, right? I tell people, some people speak Spanish, some people speak French, I speak numbers. And so that's one skill set for investor relations. The other piece is communications, because you're really communicating the story and the storyline of a company out to Wall Street. Another piece that's very important is that relationship building, because you have to build those relationships with all the investors, the analysts. The majority of my day, I'm on the phone with Wall Street, and so building those relationships are critical. But the other piece is also executive presence and being able to almost be that strategic advisor and chief of staff for your CFO and your CEO. So many times I'm sitting in the room with those individuals, and I'm hearing not only what's happening with the company, but it's my job to bring the voice of the investor into that room, into that conversation. So having that confidence and being able to have that presence to sit in the boardroom and advise them is also very important.
Okay, so let's go back to your first role. Eventually we're going to get to Starbucks, which is super cool, but I want to go back to your first role of investor relations.
Yes.
What were maybe highlight of a learning or two that you had that was like an aha moment that maybe shaped how you viewed yourself as a leader or viewed that role?
Yeah, I think one of the big aha moments when I first joined investor relations was how much weight is placed on any and everything that comes out of my mouth.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. But I can see you walking into that role not realizing anything that you say.
Right? And so it's not only the words that you're saying it, but even the tone and the demeanor. And so if someone's asking a question about, we heard A, B, and C on the call, can you tell us more about that? Will that trend continue? Is this something that we should start to factor into our model? The way that you describe it, the way that you explain it, whether you're very enthusiastic or whether you're calm, will be interpreted and included in their analysis. And so that was a big aha moment for me, was the power and the weight of what I say and how I say it, and the consequences that it could have for a company. And so that's a skill set that you can't necessarily be taught. You just have to learn it, and then you have to be extremely aware of it.
So is that something that you plan and prepare for when you're getting ready to have some kind of a communication, or is it something that comes a little natural to you, or a little bit of both?
It's definitely both.
Okay.
Because it's a mindset, right? So it's almost like you're always on. And so you have to just remember to always be on, but it's also preparation as you're going through, making sure that you understand the storyline of a company and the marketing behind the story and what we want to highlight and what we want to emphasize. Understanding the power of tone and tenor really helps with executing that role.
Okay. So so this is your third investor relations role,
Yes.
is that right?
Yes. Third and biggest.
And biggest. All right, I was about to ask you about that. I could already talk about that, how we say things. You were like, and biggest.
Yes.
Right? So as things have gotten bigger in terms of the scope of your role, what's different? What's the same and what's different?
Ooh, what's the same is, I think, the level of intensity that is truly placed on what we say and how we say it, as well as the interest in any and everything. Things that I would not normally think would be news is news for Starbucks, right? And it's the smallest things, but the smallest things gets picked up by mainstream media. And so then it kind of comes to me and people have the questions and the phone is ringing. And so that's the biggest thing is, wow, with such a global iconic brand, the smallest thing makes headlines.